20 years ago, Haiti was bleeding. The streets of Port-au-Prince ran red with something darker than rain, something that soaked into the earth and refused to wash away. Celeste Baptiste remembered the taste of ash in the air, the sound of her sister's scream cutting through the night like a machete through sugarcane. Marie was 17. Beautiful. Innocent in ways that Celeste had forgotten how to be. The men who took her wore no masks. They didn't need to. In Haiti, power was its own disguise. Celeste found Marie 3 days later in a ditch behind the old colonial church. The mambo was summoned at midnight. Celeste's mother, wrinkled and bent like ancient driftwood, tried to stop her. "You don't know what you're calling," the old woman whispered. "Baron Samedi takes what he wants. He doesn't give gifts, only debts." But Celeste was 25, and fury was a language she spoke fluently. She drew the veuve in Marie's blood. She called the names that should never be spoken aloud. And when Baron Samedi came riding the body of a neighborhood drunk like a borrowed coat, she made her bargain. 7 men died that month, each one found with their eyes turned to salt, their tongues black and swollen. The last one, the leader, was discovered in his own bedroom, every bone in his body shattered from the inside out. The debt came due on a Tuesday. Celeste's firstborn, Tamar, arrived silent. No cry. Just those eyes black as petroleum watching her with something ancient and hungry. The midwife crossed herself and left without collecting payment. Celeste ran. First to the Dominican Republic, then Puerto Rico. Finally a cargo ship to Miami, and a bus north to Detroit, pregnant again with Daniel, the child she'd conceived with a merchant marine who'd never asked her real name. Daniel, who would be her redemption. Daniel, who would prove that love could break a curse. Detroit took her in the way it took everyone, indifferently, without questions, as long as you worked. She cleaned houses. She learned English from soap operas and evening news. She lied on every form, every application. Celeste Baptiste became Celeste Baker. Haiti became the islands. Voodoo became my grandmother's superstitions. 20 years of silence, 20 years of ordinary, 20 years of pretending the debt was forgotten. Now, standing in the morgue's viewing room, with her hand pressed against cold glass, Celeste understood that Baron Samedi never forgot. He simply waited. Daniel lay on the steel table, a white sheet pulled to his chin. 20 years old. 3 bullet wounds clustered over his heart-tight grouping professional work. His face was peaceful. That was the cruelty of it. He looked like he was sleeping, like she could shake his shoulder, and he'd open those gentle brown eyes and smile, that crooked smile that had been melting her heart since he was 3 years old. "Ma'am, we need you to confirm identification." The morgue attendant was young, white, uncomfortable. He'd probably done this 100 times, but it never got easier. "Is this your son, Daniel Marcus Baker?" The name felt wrong in her mouth. Baker. The lie she'd built her life around. Daniel Marcus Baptiste, she wanted to say. My son. My light. My redemption. Yes. The word came out broken. That's my Daniel. The attendant made a mark on his clipboard. Efficient. Moving on. Just another body in a city that produced them like a factory line. "The police will want to speak with you. Detectives Mitchell and Kowalski. They're investigating the circumstances of death." Circumstances. As if Daniel's murder was just a circumstance, a footnote, a statistic for the evening news. Celeste didn't remember leaving the morgue. She found herself in the parking lot, November rain turning Detroit streets into mirrors of black ice and neon. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Mrs. Baker. A woman's voice, firm but not unkind. This is Detective Sarah Mitchell. I'm very sorry for your loss. I know this is an impossible time, but I need to ask you some questions about Daniel's activities in the days before his death. My son was a good boy. Celeste's accent thickened when she was upset, the careful American vowels slipping back toward the Caribbean. He worked. He came home. He didn't run with gangs. A pause on the line. Ma'am, Daniel was found in a warehouse on the east side, known gang territory. The property belongs to Vincent Moretti. That name mean anything to you? Everything stopped. The rain, her breath, the world. Mrs. Baker, you there? I work for Mr. Moretti, Celeste whispered. I clean his house, his office. Daniel, sometimes he would pick me up after my shift. Another pause, longer this time. Celeste could hear the detective thinking, recalculating. I need you to come to the station tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Can you do that? Yes. Mrs. Baker, don't talk to anyone about this. Not friends, not family, especially not anyone connected to Moretti. Do you understand? Celeste understood. She understood that her son was dead because of her, because she'd run from one monster straight into the arms of another, because she'd thought cleaning toilets for a mafia boss was honest work, was safe, was American. She drove home on autopilot, her ancient Honda, coughing through the rain-slicked streets of Highland Park. The neighborhood was dying, slow houses with boarded windows like missing teeth, corner stores behind iron bars, churches that doubled as food banks. But it was home. Or it had been when Daniel was alive, to make it mean something. The apartment was exactly as he'd left it that morning. Coffee cup in the sink. Textbook open on the kitchen table, highlighted passages about supply chain management. Daniel had been taking classes at community college, talking about transferring to Wayne State, getting a degree in business. I'm gonna get us out of here, Ma, he'd say. Somewhere nice, suburbs. You can have a garden. Celeste sat at the table and let herself break. The sobs came from somewhere deep, somewhere she'd locked away 20 years ago when she'd decided to become American, to become safe, to become small and invisible and ordinary. All lies, all useless. Her phone rang again, different number. She almost didn't answer. Maman. One word. Tamar's voice, deeper than Daniel's, rougher, marked by cigarettes and languages that shifted depending on which passport he was carrying. I heard. Where are you? Port-au-Prince. I can be there in 12 hours. Who did this? Celeste closed her eyes. Tamar, her firstborn, the one who'd never smiled as a baby, who'd killed his first man at 14, who'd become exactly what Baron Samedi had wanted, the debt, walking and breathing and waiting. You don't come here, she said. You stay there. This is not your business. He was my brother. He was my son. Her voice cracked. And you are my son, and I will not lose both of you to this. Maman. Gentle now, the way he only ever was with her. You know what I am, what I do. Let me do this. No. Then tell me you'll be safe. Tell me you'll stay away from whoever did this. Celeste looked at Daniel's textbook, at his coffee cup, at the life that would never happen. I'll be safe, she lied. She hung up before he could hear her crying again. The night stretched long. Celeste didn't sleep. She sat at the kitchen table and remembered Daniel at 3, at 7, at 15. Every birthday, every Christmas, every small triumph. His first day of school, his first A. His first heartbreak over some girl who didn't deserve him. The time he'd saved up from his part-time job at the grocery store to buy her flowers for Mother's Day pink roses that cost too much but made him so proud. "You work too hard, Ma," he'd said, presenting them with a bow that was more tape than ribbon. "You deserve something nice." She'd kept one of those roses dried. It pressed it in her Bible, even though she'd stopped believing in that particular God a long time ago. At 3 in the morning, she made a decision. The storage unit was in Dearborn, rented under another false name paid in cash every year. Celeste hadn't opened it in 2 decades. The lock stuck from rust and neglect. Inside cardboard boxes held the artifacts of her old life. Photographs of Marie. Her mother's journals written in Creole and Old French. The tools of her trade. The sacred rattles the Aison. Candles in 7 colors. Bottles of Florida water and rum. Chalk for drawing vaves. And underneath it all, wrapped in red cloth that had once been white, the knife. Celeste held it up to the dim light of the storage unit. The blade was iron hand-forged in Haiti a century ago, passed from mambo to mambo. It had tasted blood before. It would taste blood again. Baron Samedi had taken Marie. He'd taken her peace. He'd marked Tamar from birth. And now he'd taken Daniel, sweet Daniel, who'd never hurt anyone, who'd believed in second chances and hard work and the American dream. The debt was old, but it wasn't paid. It would never be paid. Not in this life, unless she changed the terms. Celeste loaded the boxes into her Honda's trunk and drove back to Highland Park as the sun started to gray the eastern sky. She had work to do, preparations to make. Baron Samedi didn't give gifts her mother had warned, only debts. But Celeste was going to make him an offer he'd understand. A life for a life. A debt for a debt. And this time she'd make sure the terms were clear. Daniel was coming back. Marcus Williams had a rule that had kept him alive through 3 drive-bys, 2 prison stabbings, and a turf war that left half his crew dead. Never show weakness. Not in the streets, not in lockup, not even in his sleep. Weakness got you killed. Weakness made you pray. He'd learned that at 12 when his uncle got shot over a dice game, bleeding out on the corner of Harper and Van Dyke while people stepped around him like he was a pothole. But sitting in the back of his cousin Jerome's Escalade watching the rain turn Detroit into a watercolor nightmare, Ghost felt something uncomfortably close to weakness curling in his chest. Devin was dead. Devin, who'd held down the block while Ghost did his year upstate. Devin, who'd promised to keep the pipeline flowing, keep the skulls out of their territory, keep the money right. Devin, who'd been more brother than cousin, who'd taught Ghost how to cook crack when they were 15, who'd taken a bullet in the shoulder meant for Ghost when they were 17. Dead in an alley off Gratiot Throat Cut. Wallet gone, work gone. Made to look like a robbery, but Ghost knew better. This was a message. This was the skulls making a play while Ghost was still finding his feet after lockup. "You good, boss?" Jerome asked from the driver's seat. Young kid barely 20, eager to prove himself. Dangerous combination. "I'm straight," Ghost said. "Devin's people taken care of. His mom's got the money. His girl, too. We told her it was an accident car crash, keep her from asking questions." Smart. Devin's girlfriend Shanice was a talker, social worker type, always trying to get Devin to go straight, get a real job, move out to the suburbs. She didn't need to know her man died over a brick of heroin in an alley. "Where we at with the skulls?" Jerome shifted, uncomfortable. "Word is they didn't do it." "The fuck you mean they didn't do it?" "I mean, Ryder's people are saying they clean on this, that they got their own problems right now, ain't looking to start nothing with us." Ghost lit a cigarette, thought about it. Ryder wasn't stupid. The Skulls controlled the West Side through sheer numbers and Vincent Moretti's blessing. They moved Moretti's product, provided muscle when needed, kept the peace in exchange for a healthy cut. Starting a war with 12 Block would bring heat. Nobody wanted cops crawling all over both territories, profits down, bodies up. But someone had killed Devin, and someone was going to answer for it. Set up a meet, Ghost said. Neutral ground. I want to look Ryder in the eye, hear him say it wasn't his people. And if he's lying, then we go to war. Jerome nodded and made the call. Ghost watched the streets slide past blocks he'd claimed at 17, defended at 19, killed for at 21. This was his city, his kingdom. Nobody took from him without paying the price. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Ghost almost ignored it, but something made him answer. This, Mr. Williams? A voice he didn't recognize. Male, older accent that wasn't quite American. Who's asking? My name's not important. What's important is, I got information about who killed your boy Devin. Ghost sat up straighter. I'm listening. Not on the phone. There's a diner on 8 Mile Lucky's. Meet me there in an hour. Come alone. How do I know this ain't a setup? A dry laugh. Mr. Williams, if I wanted you dead, you'd already be dead. I'm trying to prevent more bloodshed. Yours, mine, everyone's. 1 hour. Lucky's. Booth in the back. The line went dead. Jerome was watching him in the rear view. Boss. Change of plans. Drop me at 8 Mile and DeQuindre. Then head over to Smokey's. Let the boys know we might have something. You sure that's smart? Going alone? Ghost smiled without humor. Nobody lives forever, Jerome, but I plan to live long enough to bury whoever killed Devin. Lucky's Diner was a relic from the 50s, all chrome and red vinyl, and a waitress who looked like she'd been there since opening day. Ghost scanned the room. 2 truck drivers at the counter, an old man doing a crossword, and in the back booth a figure in an expensive charcoal suit that didn't belong in this neighborhood. Ghost slid into the booth. The man across from him was maybe 50, light-skinned black man with gray in his close-cropped hair and eyes that had seen things. His hands were on the table, manicured, no rings. Professional. Mr. Williams, thank you for coming. You got 60 seconds to tell me why I shouldn't walk out. The man smiled. My name is Marcus Holloway. I'm a facilitator. I help people solve problems quietly, efficiently, before they become wars. You a cop? No. I work for people who prefer to avoid police attention. People like Vincent Moretti. Ghost's jaw tightened. So, Moretti sent you. Mr. Moretti doesn't know I'm here, but I know things about his organization, things he'd prefer stayed quiet, like the fact that someone in his operation has been skimming product selling to independent contractors, undercutting the agreed prices, destabilizing the market. What's that got to do with Devin? Holloway pulled out a phone, showed Ghost a photograph. Devin and a white man in a parking lot, brick of heroin visible between them. Timestamp from 3 days before Devin died. This is Dalton Krause, ex-military, now freelance. Moretti's people use him for wet work sometimes. Devin was buying direct from Krause, cutting out the skulls, cutting out Moretti's markup. That's a problem for everyone involved. Ghost stared at the photo. Devin. His Devin cutting deals behind his back, fucking with the established order, the agreements that kept the peace and kept everyone breathing. You're saying Krause killed him. I'm saying Krause cleaned up a problem before it became Moretti's problem. And now you're about to go to war with the Skulls over something they didn't do. which means more bodies, more attention, more problems for everyone. So what, I'm supposed to just let this go? Holloway leaned back. I'm saying you should focus your anger in the right direction. Kraus is in the wind, but the person who contracted him is still around. And that person is about to make a move that'll change everything in this city. Who? Someone close to Moretti, someone ambitious, someone who sees this war as an opportunity. Holloway stood up, dropped a 20 on the table. Watch your back, Mr. Williams, and maybe ask yourself who benefits if you and the Skulls destroy each other. He was gone before Ghost could respond, sliding out into the rain like he'd never been there. Ghost sat in the booth for a long time, staring at nothing, thinking about trust and betrayal and the kinds of deaths people earned. The waitress brought him coffee he didn't order. He drank it anyway, burning his tongue, barely noticing. Devon had betrayed him, had been cutting deals, making moves, probably planning to set up his own operation. And Ghost hadn't seen it, hadn't wanted to see it. That was the weakness creeping in. Sentimentality. Nostalgia for a friendship that had maybe never been what he thought it was. His phone rang. Jerome. Boss, we got a problem. Ryder agreed to the meet, but he wants it tonight. Warehouse District, that old auto plant on Fort Street. Says he'll bring 2 guys, you bring 2 guys, we talk it out. What time? Midnight. 4 hours. Ghost paid for the coffee and walked out into the rain. He had planning to do. Because whether or not Ryder had killed Devon, someone was playing games. And Ghost didn't like games. He liked certainty. He liked control. He liked being the smartest, meanest, most ruthless person in the room. And tonight, at that warehouse, he was going to find out who was trying to take that away from him. Vincent Moretti's home was in Grosse Pointe, because even mafia bosses appreciated good schools and lakefront property. The house was a colonial revival, white columns and black shutters, the kind of place that said old money, even though Moretti's family had earned their fortune in decidedly new ways. Celeste had been cleaning this house for 8 years. Every Tuesday and Friday, 7 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. She knew which floorboards creaked, which drawers stuck, where Moretti kept his spare phones and his gun safe and the whiskey he drank when he thought no one was watching. She knew more about Vincent Moretti than his wife did, which was saying something because Diane Moretti spent a lot of time in this house, bored and bitter, and slowly drinking herself to death with wine that cost more than Celeste's monthly rent. Today was Thursday. Celeste wasn't supposed to be here, but she had keys and the alarm code and a question that needed answering. The house was empty. Diane was at her book club, which was really just an excuse for day drinking with other mafia wives. Moretti was at his office downtown, the import-export business that was actually a front for moving heroin, cocaine, and guns through the port of Detroit. Celeste moved through the rooms like a ghost, touching nothing, leaving no trace. She'd learned how to be invisible a long time ago. It was a skill that kept you alive. Moretti's home office was on the 2nd floor, oak-paneled and masculine, all leather chairs and dark wood and the smell of cigars. The computer was password protected, but Celeste didn't need the computer. She needed the filing cabinet. She'd watched Moretti open it exactly twice in 8 years. Both times late at night when he thought she'd gone home, not knowing she was still there, finishing up the 3rd-floor bathrooms. He'd used a key he kept in his desk drawer under a false bottom. She'd only noticed because she'd been waxing the desk, and the drawer had stuck. The key was still there. The filing cabinet opened with a soft click that sounded like a gunshot in the quiet house. Inside were folders. So many folders. Names she recognized from the news, from police raids, from whispered conversations. Payroll records, shipping manifests, photographs of people who'd probably wished they'd never met Vincent Moretti. And there, in a folder labeled East Side Expansion, she found what she was looking for. A memo dated 1 week ago, discussing the 12-block problem, noting that their leader Marcus Williams was about to be released from prison, recommending proactive measures to destabilize the organization before Williams could reassert control. And at the bottom, in Moretti's handwriting, the words that made Celeste's blood run cold. Approved. Coordinate with R.R. Ryder, the Skull's leader. Celeste photographed everything with her phone, careful to keep the papers in order to leave no sign she'd been here. She was just returning the key to its hiding place when she heard the front door open. Footsteps in the foyer. Heavy. Male. Not Moretti's characteristic smooth gait, but something heavier, more purposeful. Celeste froze. She was on the second floor with one staircase down, and no good explanation for why she was here on her day off in Moretti's private office. The footsteps started up the stairs. She looked around frantically. The closet no too obvious. Under the desk, same problem. The window, second-story 20-foot drop onto flagstone. The footsteps reached the top of the stairs, turned toward the office. Celeste made a decision. She stepped behind the door, pressing herself flat against the wall, and waited. The door swung open. A man entered, broad-shouldered, black, maybe 30. He wore expensive sneakers and a leather jacket that probably cost a month of her salary. He moved directly to Moretti's desk, confident like he'd been here before. Ryder. She'd seen his photograph in the files. He opened the desk drawer, not the one with the key, a different one, and pulled out a phone. Burner, probably. He dialed, waited. "It's me," he said. "No, he's not here. Yeah, I'm sure. Look, we need to move up the timeline. Ghost is sniffing around asking questions. That facilitator you hired, Holloway, bad move. Ghost is smart. He's going to figure it out." A pause. Ryder's jaw clenched. "I don't care what Moretti thinks. This is my operation now. You promised me the East Side when this was done. Full control. So either we move now, or I walk and you can explain to Moretti why his master plan went to shit." Another pause. Longer. Ryder relaxed slightly. "Good. Tonight. The warehouse meet. I'll handle Ghost. You handle Moretti. And then we split the city the way it should have been split years ago." He hung up, pocketed the phone, started to turn. Celeste held her breath. If he looked behind the door, if he sensed anything, she was dead. No question. Men like Ryder didn't leave witnesses. But Ryder's phone rang. His actual phone. He answered it, already moving toward the hallway. "Yeah. No, I'm leaving now. Tell the boys to gear up. Full load. This ends tonight." His footsteps receded, down the stairs, out the front door, the sound of an engine starting, pulling away. Celeste waited 5 full minutes before she moved. Her hands were shaking. Her heart felt like it was trying to break through her ribs. She'd just heard a man plan a murder. Multiple murders, probably. Ghost. Moretti. Maybe others. And Daniel had been caught in the middle of this, had probably overheard something, seen something, become a liability, had died for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The rage that had been building in Celeste since the morgue finally found its shape. Not scattered grief, but focused fury. Specific. Targeted. Ryder. The man who'd just been in this office. The man who'd orchestrated everything. The man who'd killed her son. She photographed the desk, the drawer, everything she could see. Evidence. Proof. The kind of thing Detective Mitchell would want. But detectives move slow. Courts move slower. Justice was a luxury Daniel didn't have time for. Celeste locked up the house and drove back to Highland Park. She had 12 hours until midnight. 12 hours to prepare. Baron Samedi had given her the knowledge decades ago. The rituals, the words, the prices. She'd sworn never to use them again. But oaths were just words, and words could be broken. For Daniel, she'd break anything. Sarah Mitchell had been a detective for 12 years, and she'd learned to trust her instincts. Right now, her instincts were screaming. The Daniel Baker case didn't make sense. Good kid by all accounts. Community college student. Part-time job at a grocery store. Mother who cleaned houses. No criminal record. No gang affiliations. No reason to be in a warehouse on the east side at 11 in the evening on a Wednesday. Except his mother worked for Vincent Moretti, and that warehouse belonged to a shell company that traced back to one of Moretti's legitimate businesses. Sarah sat at her desk and the precinct's detective bureau files spread around her like puzzle pieces that refused to form a picture. Her partner, Nick Kowalski, had gone home an hour ago, wife and kids waiting. Sarah had no one waiting. Hadn't since Tom died 3 years ago, heart attack at 42 gone before the ambulance arrived. The job was easier when you had no one to go home to. Dangerous way to think, but true. Her phone rang. Desk sergeant. Mitchell got a woman here wants to talk to you. Says it's about the Baker case. Name's Celeste Baker. Sarah checked her watch. 9 in the evening. Send her up. Celeste Baker looked exactly like her DMV photo. Early 40s, dark-skinned Haitian features, the kind of beautiful that age enhanced rather than diminished. But the photo hadn't captured the grief in her eyes or the set of her shoulders, like she was carrying weight that might crush her if she stopped moving. Mrs. Baker, thank you for coming in. Sarah gestured to a chair. Can I get you coffee, water? No, thank you. Celeste sat straight-backed, hands folded in her lap. I have information about my son's death. Sarah pulled out her notepad. I'm listening. There is going to be a meeting tonight. Midnight. Old auto plant on Fort Street. Marcus Williams and a man named Ryder. They are going to kill each other. Sarah's pen stopped moving. How do you know this? I overheard. At Mr. Moretti's house. You were at Moretti's house today. I thought you only worked Tuesdays and Fridays. I went there to find answers. Celeste pulled out her phone, showed Sarah the photographs. Daniel was killed because of this. Because he knew about Ryder's plan to betray Moretti. Because he was there when he shouldn't have been. Sarah scrolled through the photos, internal documents, memos, proof of conspiracy, racketeering, a dozen charges that could bring down Moretti's entire organization. Mrs. Baker, this is incredible, but I have to ask, how did you access these files? Does it matter? It matters if I want to use them in court. Illegally obtained evidence can be thrown out, and then everything we build on it falls apart. My son is dead. Celeste's voice cracked. Your courts did not save him. Your laws did not protect him. So I do what I must do. Sarah set down the phone. What you must do is let us handle this. If there's a meet tonight, we can stop it. Prevent more deaths. But I need you to go home, stay safe, and let us do our jobs. Celeste stood. I came here because I thought you should know. What you do with that knowledge is your choice. But I will be there tonight, at that warehouse, and I will make sure the man who killed my son pays for what he did. Mrs. Baker, Celeste, please, don't do something you can't take back. For the first time, Celeste smiled. It was the saddest thing Sarah had ever seen. Detective Mitchell, I did something I could not take back 20 years ago. Tonight I'm just finishing what I started. She walked out before Sarah could stop her. Sarah sat at her desk, staring at the photographs on Celeste's phone, which the woman had left behind. Intentionally. Evidence. A gift. Or a confession. Sarah called Kowalski. Nick, I need you back at the office. We've got a situation. While she waited, she pulled up everything she could find on Celeste Baker. Born Celeste Baptiste in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, immigrated to the U.S. 20 years ago. One son, Daniel, born in Miami. Clean record, quiet life. But something was off. Sarah couldn't put her finger on it, but there were gaps. A year between leaving Haiti and arriving in Miami. No record of how she'd entered the country, which visa she'd used, nothing in the databases. Like she'd appeared out of nowhere, fully formed with a new name and a newborn son. Sarah pulled up Haitian news archives, started searching for Baptiste. It took an hour, but she found it. An article from 23 years ago. A village outside Port-au-Prince. 7 men dead in 1 month, cause unknown. Local authorities had attributed it to a spiritual matter. The village's mambo, a woman named Celeste Baptiste, had disappeared shortly after. Mambo, voodoo priestess. Sarah sat back thinking about Celeste's eyes, the weight she carried, the way she'd said, I did something I could not take back. Kowalski arrived out of breath, looking annoyed until he saw Sarah's face. What have we got? We've got a gang war about to kick off, a mafia conspiracy, and a voodoo priestess planning revenge. Come again. Sarah showed him the files, explained everything. Kowalski listened, getting paler with each revelation. We need SWAT, he finally said. Full tactical team. Lock down that warehouse before anyone shows up. Agreed. But Nick, we need to find Celeste Baker before she does something we can't fix. They spent the next 3 hours coordinating. SWAT, patrol units, surveillance. By 11 in the evening, they had Fort Street locked down tighter than a federal prison. Sarah stood in the command van 2 blocks from the warehouse, watching feeds from 8 different cameras. Officers in position, snipers on rooftops, every exit covered. Movement, someone called. North entrance. On screen, 3 cars pulled up. Ghost and his crew, right on time. South entrance, more vehicles. Ryder and the Skulls, like clockwork. All units hold position. Wait for my signal. Sarah watched the 2 groups converge on the warehouse. Tense, heavily armed. This was going to be a bloodbath if they didn't time it perfectly. Ma'am? One of the officers pointed at a different screen. We've got someone on foot, coming from the east. Sarah leaned in. A figure in dark clothing, hood up, moving with purpose toward the warehouse. Even through the grainy camera feed, Sarah recognized the walk. Celeste. Fuck! All units, we have a civilian on approach. Female, black 40s. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage, I'm going in. Kowalski grabbed her arm. Sarah, you can't go in there alone. If this goes sideways, you're dead. I'm not letting this woman commit suicide. Sarah pulled away, grabbed her vest, her radio. You wait for my signal. When I say go, you go. Not before. She was out of the van before he could argue. The warehouse loomed like a monument to Detroit's lost glory. 4 stories of broken windows and rusted steel, the auto plant that had employed thousands in the 50s laid them all off in the 80s and now served as a haunted house for rats and junkies, and tonight, a killing floor. Sarah moved through the shadows, following Celeste's path. She could hear voices inside the warehouse, Ghost and Ryder posturing, threatening, dancing around the real issue. She found Celeste at a side entrance, crouched behind a pile of old machinery, watching through a gap in the wall. "Celeste," Sarah kept her voice low. "This ends now. Come with me." Celeste didn't turn. "You should not be here, detective." "Neither should you." "I am exactly where I need to be." Inside the warehouse, the voices were getting louder, angrier. Sarah could see them now through the gap. Ghost and two of his people on one side, Ryder and two skulls on the other, guns visible but not drawn yet. "You called this meet," Ghost was saying. "So talk." Ryder smiled. "I wanted to look you in the eye when I told you this was over. Your territory, your business, your crew, it's mine now. Moretti's orders." "Bullshit. Moretti wouldn't make a deal with you behind my back. We had an arrangement." "Moretti's done with you, Ghost. You're too unpredictable, too violent, bad for business. So he made a deal with me. I clean you up, I get the east side. Simple." Ghost's jaw tightened. "You killed Devon." "Actually, that was a contractor. But yeah, I ordered it. Had to get your attention somehow." Sarah saw Ghost's hand move toward his weapon, saw Ryder's people doing the same. This was it. The moment. She grabbed her radio. "All units stand by for my command. We're about to have shots fired." Celeste's hand covered hers, strong, unyielding. "Wait," Celeste whispered, "for what, they're about to kill each other." "Wait." Inside the warehouse, Ghost pulled his gun. Ryder did the same. Their people followed suit. Mexican standoff. 6 guns, 12 seconds from a massacre, and then the lights went out. All of them. The warehouse plunged into darkness so complete that Sarah couldn't see her hand in front of her face. Shouting. Confusion. The sound of feet scrambling for cover. And then cutting through it all, a voice that raised every hair on Sarah's body. "You killed my son." It was Celeste's voice, but it wasn't coming from beside Sarah. It was coming from inside the warehouse. Sarah turned. The space next to her was empty. Celeste was gone. Celeste. Sarah pulled her flashlight, swept the area. Nothing. Inside the warehouse, someone screamed. A man's voice, high and terrified. Gunshots. Muzzle flashes in the dark like lightning. More screaming. Sarah keyed her radio. "All units go now, go, go, go." Tactical lights flooded the warehouse. SWAT officers poured in from every entrance. Sarah ran in behind them, weapon drawn, heart pounding. The scene inside looked like something from a nightmare. Ryder's 2 people were dead. Throats cut, so much blood it was pooling on the concrete. Ghost's people were alive but traumatized, backed against a wall, weapons on the ground. Ghost himself was on his knees, hands behind his head, staring at something Sarah couldn't see. And Ryder was hanging from a steel beam rope around his neck, feet dangling 2 feet off the ground. Still alive, barely, choking. "Cut him down!" Sarah shouted. Officers moved. Ryder crashed to the ground, gasping, clutching his throat. "What happened?" Sarah demanded. "Who did this?" Ghost looked at her with eyes that had seen things he couldn't explain. "A ghost," he whispered. "A fucking ghost. It looked like that kid. The one from the news. Daniel Baker. But it couldn't be. I saw him die. We all saw him die." Sarah's blood went cold. Kowalski appeared at her shoulder. "We've got a problem. Crime scene techs found something on the bodies." He showed her a photograph on his phone, one of the dead skulls. On his chest, drawn in his own blood, was a symbol Sarah didn't recognize. Geometric, precise, almost beautiful. What is it? I had to look it up. It's called a vev, voodoo symbol. This one specifically is for Baron Samedi, the Loa of death. Sarah turned slowly, scanning the warehouse. Shadows and steel and blood. Somewhere in the darkness, Celeste was watching. Sarah could feel it. "Get forensics on everything," she said. "I want this place processed inch by inch, and someone find me Celeste Baker. Now." But Sarah already knew they wouldn't find her. Not tonight. Celeste had made her bargain, and Baron Samedi had come to collect. The morgue at Wayne County was quiet at 2 in the morning, the kind of quiet that felt deliberate, like the building itself was holding its breath. Dr. Raymond Porter had worked there for 15 years, and he'd never gotten used to the silence. Give him screaming relatives, crying children, anything but this oppressive nothing. He was finishing paperwork on the Fort Street warehouse victims when he heard it. Footsteps. From the cold storage room. Porter froze. The cold storage room was locked. He'd locked it himself 2 hours ago. Nobody had come in or out. The security logs would show that. The footsteps continued. Slow, deliberate, getting closer. Porter reached for his phone, fingers trembling. Called security. "This is Porter in the morgue. I need someone down here now. I think we have an intruder." "Sir, our systems show the morgue is secure. All doors locked." "I'm telling you, I hear someone walking around in the cold storage, and I didn't let anyone in there. Get someone down here." "On our way, sir." The cold storage door opened. A figure stepped out. Male, early 20s, wearing the clothes he'd died in 3 days ago, stiff with dried blood. Daniel Baker. Porter's phone clattered to the floor. His mouth worked, but no sound came out. This was impossible. The body had been dead for 72 hours. 3 gunshots to the heart. No pulse, no respiration, no brain activity. Dead by every medical definition. And yet it was standing, walking, looking at him. Daniel's eyes were wrong. Not dead, that would have been easier. They were awake, aware, but looking at something Porter couldn't see. Looking through him. "I'm sorry," Daniel said. His voice was soft, gentle, not the voice of a dead man. "I didn't mean to scare you. You're dead. I pronounced you dead. 3 gunshots to the heart. You've been in cold storage for 72 hours. Porter's voice was shaking. He'd seen a lot in 15 years, but never this, never anything close to this. Daniel looked down at his chest, at the bullet wounds visible through the torn, blood-stained shirt. "Yeah, that's going to be a problem." He walked past Porter toward the exit. His gait was off, stiff, like he was remembering how to move. But he was walking. Dead men didn't walk. "Wait." Porter found his voice. "You can't just leave. I need to examine you, run tests, figure out how this is possible. This is medically impossible." Daniel turned back. "You don't want to know how, Dr. Porter. Trust me. Go home. Hug your wife. Forget you saw me." "I can't just forget that I saw a corpse walk out of my morgue. That's not how this works. I have to report this. I have protocols. I have procedures." "Forget." Daniel's eyes locked onto Porter's. For a second, just a second, they flickered, changed, became something ancient and hungry and vast. "This is not your business. This is between the dead and those who made us that way." Porter's knees gave out. He sat hard on the floor, watching Daniel Baker walk out of the morgue like resurrection was just another Thursday night in Detroit. When security arrived 5 minutes later, Porter couldn't speak, could barely remember his own name. The security footage showed the cold storage door opening on its own, showed nothing walking out, showed a middle-aged medical examiner sitting on the floor staring at nothing, tears running down his face. By morning, Porter had resigned. By noon, he'd left Detroit. Some doors once opened couldn't be closed. Celeste sat in her apartment, candles burning in a circle around her, and felt the moment Daniel's body moved. Felt the Loa slide into dead flesh like a hand into a glove. Felt Baron Samedi's laughter echo in her bones. The vive she'd drawn on the floor pulsed with light that had no source. The rum she'd poured had evaporated, offering accepted. The rooster's blood on the knife was still wet, still warm, still screaming silently for mercy she hadn't given. "It is done," she whispered. The candles flared. Shadows moved on the walls, dancing to music only they could hear. And then he was there. Not Daniel. The thing wearing Daniel's body. It stood in her living room, head cocked, examining her like a collector examining a new specimen. "Mambo." The voice was layered, Daniel's soft tone underneath something older. "It has been a long time." 20 years. Celeste's voice shook, despite her best efforts to control it. "I called you once before. You took my sister's killers." "And I took payment. The firstborn, Tamar, a fine debt." The thing smiled with Daniel's mouth, but the expression was all wrong, too wide, too knowing. "And now you call again. What payment this time, I wonder? The ones who killed Daniel, I want them all. Everyone who planned it, executed it, benefited from it. I want them to know fear before they die. I want them to understand what they took from me." Such specificity, such rage. The thing circled her, examining the vive, the offerings. "But the boy's body is limiting. It has been dead too long. The flesh is willing, but the spirit fights me. He does not want revenge. He wants peace." Celeste's breath caught. Daniel is still there. He's still in there. An echo, a whisper, fading. The thing knelt before her, took her hands in Daniel's cold ones. "But there is a way, a stronger vessel, one who knows death, who has dealt it, who will not fight what needs to be done. Tamar." Celeste closed her eyes. "You want Tamar. Not want, need. This body will last perhaps a week before it fails completely. But Tamar is fresh, strong, already stained with blood, the perfect instrument for what you desire. He's in Haiti. Call him, bring him here, and I will give you the revenge you crave. Every name on your list, every person who stole your son from you, they will beg for death before I am finished." Celeste thought about Daniel's smile, his dreams of college, of getting them out of the neighborhood, of becoming something better than the violence that had birthed him. Thought about Tamar, her firstborn, who'd never had dreams because Baron Samedi had claimed him before his first breath. 2 sons, both taken, both turned into weapons. The price of power was always someone else's life. "How long?" she asked. "If I bring Tamar, how long do I have before you take him completely?" 7 days. 7 is sacred. After that, the debt is paid and the borrowed flesh is mine to keep. Or you can offer yourself instead. End this now. Let the boy rest. Let Tamar live. Take the punishment you have earned." Celeste looked at the altar she'd built, at Daniel's photograph, young and smiling, at the knife still wet with sacrifice. "I will call Tamar," she said, "but the debt ends with me. When the 7 days are finished, when the revenge is complete, you take my life, not his, mine. Done. The thing sealed it with a kiss to her forehead, ice and ash and the smell of grave dirt. Call him now. We have work to do. Celeste made the call with shaking hands. Tamar answered on the first ring. Maman, what's wrong? Come home, she whispered. Please, I need you. I'm already at the airport. I'll be there in 8 hours. Of course he was. Tamar had known, had felt something change. The bond between mother and son, between debt and payment, between the living and the dead. He'd always known on some level what he was, what he'd been made for. Celeste hung up and wept, not for Daniel, who was past tears, not for herself, who deserved none, for Tamar, for the boy who'd never been allowed to be anything but a weapon, who would spend his last week on earth as a vessel for death itself. I'm sorry, she whispered to the empty room. I'm so sorry. The thing wearing Daniel's body smiled and said nothing. There was work to be done. 7 deaths to deliver, a debt to settle. And Baron Samedi was always, always patient. Sarah Mitchell stood in her lieutenant's office the next morning, Kowalski beside her, trying to explain the unexplainable. So let me get this straight. Lieutenant Morrison was 55, ex-military, didn't believe in anything he couldn't shoot or arrest. You're telling me that our 3 bodies from the warehouse were killed by a dead kid who walked out of the morgue last night? That's what the evidence suggests, Sarah said carefully. Evidence. Okay, let's talk evidence. You've got security footage showing nothing. You've got a medical examiner who quit without explanation. You've got witnesses claiming they saw a ghost. That's not evidence, Mitchell. That's a psych eval waiting to happen. Kowalski stepped in. Sir, we have the symbols, the vevs. They match known voodoo practices from Haiti. And Celeste Baker is Haitian, has a documented history in Port-au-Prince. There are news articles about deaths connected to her name from 23 years ago. Of cleaning houses. Morrison cut him off. Not raising the dead. Christ, do you hear yourselves? Sarah pulled out her phone. Sir, I've been researching Baron Samedi. He's a Loa, a Haitian voodoo spirit associated with death and resurrection. The symbols we found on the bodies are his signature, and every victim so far has been directly involved in Daniel Baker's death. So what this is revenge from beyond the grave. Come on, Mitchell. You're one of my best detectives. I need better than this. Then what do you want me to say? Sarah felt her frustration boiling over. That it's a copycat, a gang war, because the bodies tell a different story. Clean cuts, professional execution, no struggle. And they all have one thing in common. They hurt Celeste Baker's son. Morrison rubbed his face. What do you need? I need to find Celeste, and I need protection for anyone else on that list, because whoever's doing this isn't done yet. You have a list. Sarah pulled up the photos from Moretti's files. These are everyone involved in the East Side expansion plan, the plan that got Daniel killed. So far, 2 of Ryder's people are dead. Ryder himself is in ICU under guard, but there are others. Vincent Moretti, his second-in-command, a guy named Frank Castellano, and Marcus Williams' ghost. Ghost survived the warehouse. Barely. He's in protective custody, but he's terrified. Says he saw something that night, something that knew his real name, his sins, everything he'd ever done. Says it whispered to him that his time was coming. Morrison was quiet for a long moment. You really believe this voodoo magic? Sarah thought about Celeste's eyes, about the cold certainty in her voice when she'd said I did something I could not take back. I believe Celeste Baker made a deal to get revenge for her son. Whether that deal was with a voodoo god or something else, the results are the same. People are dying, and more will die unless we stop her. Then, stop her. You have my full support, whatever resources you need. Morrison stood signaling the end of the meeting. But Mitchell, find me something I can put in a report, something that doesn't make us all sound insane. Sarah and Kowalski left the office in silence. In the hallway, Nick finally spoke. You really think it's voodoo? I think Celeste thinks it's voodoo, and right now, that's all that matters. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Detective Mitchell. Detective. A male voice, young with a faint accent. Caribbean. My name is Tamar Baptiste. I am Celeste Baker's oldest son. I understand you are looking for my mother. Sarah's heart rate spiked. She gestured frantically at Kowalski, who started tracing the call. Mr. Baptiste, yes, I'd very much like to speak with your mother. Can you tell me where she is? I just landed at Detroit Metro. I will be at her apartment in 1 hour. If you want to speak with her, meet us there. Come alone. If I see other police, I disappear, and you never find her. Tamar, I can't promise that. This is a murder investigation, multiple homicides. I have protocols to follow. 1 hour, detective, alone. Or more people die and their blood is on your hands. The line went dead. Kowalski looked up from his computer. Got it. Call came from a burner phone, but it pinged off a tower near the airport. He's telling the truth about just landing. Sarah was already grabbing her coat. I'm going. The hell you are. Not alone. This could be a trap. Then let it be a trap. We need Celeste. This is our only shot. Sarah, think about this. If it is voodoo, if there really is something supernatural happening, what makes you think you can stop it by going alone? Nick. She stopped, looked at him. I've been doing this job for 12 years. Tom's been dead for 3. I have nothing to lose. But those people on that list, they have families, lives. And if I don't stop this, they're going to die in ways that'll give their children nightmares. So yeah, I'm going alone. And you're going to stay here and coordinate backup in case I don't come back. She was out the door before he could argue. The drive to Highland Park took 40 minutes through morning traffic. Sarah spent the time thinking about voodoo, about faith, about the things people did when the system failed them. Celeste had tried the legal route, reported to the police, handed over evidence. And what had the police done? Shown up too late, let people die, failed to protect her son. No wonder she'd turned to something older, something that promised results. Sarah parked 2 blocks from Celeste's apartment building. Old brick, crumbling, the kind of place landlords forgot about until code enforcement showed up. She checked her weapon, her phone, her vest. Then she walked into what might be her death. The apartment was on the 3rd floor. Sarah took the stairs, noting exits, windows, anywhere someone might hide. The hallway smelled like curry and mildew. Most of the apartments were quiet. Day shift had already left for work. Night shift was sleeping. Celeste's door was ajar. Sarah drew her weapon, pushed it open slowly. Celeste, it's Detective Mitchell. I'm coming in. The apartment was small. Living room, kitchen, 2 bedrooms. Clean, modest. Photos on the walls showed Daniel at various ages, always smiling. A high school graduation photo, him in a grocery store uniform, looking proud. Celeste sat at the kitchen table. She looked like she'd aged a decade in 3 days. Her eyes were hollow, her hands shaking slightly as she held a cup of tea. Beside her stood a man Sarah recognized from intelligence photos, Tamar Baptiste, wanted in connection with 6 murders in Haiti and the Caribbean, professional killer, dangerous. He didn't look dangerous now. He looked exhausted, grieving. "Detective Mitchell." Celeste's voice was hoarse. "Thank you for coming." Sarah holstered her weapon but kept her hand near it. "Celeste, Tamar, I need you both to come with me to the station, answer some questions, help me understand what's happening." "You know what is happening." Celeste set down her tea. "You researched. You found my history. You know what I did 20 years ago. I know you're wanted for questioning in several deaths in Haiti. I know the local authorities thought it was voodoo, but Celeste, this is America. We don't prosecute people for witchcraft. No, you just let their children die and call it gang violence." The words hit like a slap. Sarah took a breath. "You're right. The system failed Daniel. Failed you. I'm sorry. Truly. But what you're doing now, the killings, the voodoo, whatever this is, it's not justice. It's revenge. And it's going to destroy you." Tamar spoke for the first time. "It already has." Sarah looked at him. "You don't have to be part of this. You can walk away." "Can I?" Tamar's smile was bitter. "I was born into this, detective. My mother made a deal before I was born. I've been paying the price my entire life. So no, I cannot walk away. But I can make sure it ends. Make sure no one else pays." "How?" Celeste answered. "I made a bargain. 7 days. 7 people. After that, the debt is paid, and I give my life to close the circle. No more death. No more deals. It ends." Sarah felt cold. "Who are the 7? The ones who killed my son. Ryder's 2 soldiers already dead. Ryder himself in the hospital. Frank Castellano Moretti II. Vincent Moretti. Marcus Williams. And one more." "Who?" Celeste pulled out a photo. "Mayor Peter Costanzo. He gave the order to pull police from the east side the night Daniel died, made sure there was no one to respond. He's on Moretti's payroll, has been for years." Sarah had suspected as much but had never had proof. "Celeste, if you have evidence against the mayor, real evidence, we can build a case. We can bring him down legally. You don't have to do this." "Evidence doesn't bring back my son." Celeste stood. "You cannot stop this, detective. It is already in motion. But I want you to know after tonight it's over. 7 days. 7 deaths. And then I pay the price. No more innocents, just the guilty and the damned." "I can't let you do this. You cannot stop me." Tamar moved, fast. Before Sarah could react, he had her weapon, had her radio, had her phone, all of it on the kitchen counter out of reach. "I'm sorry," he said, "but you need to understand. My mother has spent 20 years running from what she is, from what she can do. Daniel was her hope, her proof that she could be something other than a mambo, other than a dealer in death. They took that from her. So yes, she will have her revenge, and yes, she will pay the price. But you are not part of this debt. You walk away. You live. You remember that sometimes the system fails and people find their own justice." He stepped back. Sarah could have gone for her weapon, could have tried to stop them. But Celeste's eyes held hers, and Sarah saw something there she recognized. Grief. The same grief she'd felt standing over Tom's body, knowing CPR wouldn't bring him back, knowing all her training and experience and faith meant nothing against the simple fact of death. 7 days, Celeste said. Stay away, detective, for your own sake. Sarah left the apartment, got to her car, sat there shaking for a full 5 minutes before she could drive. She'd let them go. Let a murder suspect and an international fugitive walk away because what? Because she understood, because the system had failed and she knew it. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Frank Castellano, the docks, midnight. Come alone if you want to save him. Sarah stared at the message. A trap, obviously, but if she didn't go, a man would die. A guilty man, probably, but still a man. She called Kowalski. I need you to pull everything on Frank Castellano, Associates Properties regular locations, and Nick, get me a SWAT team on standby. We're going to the docks tonight. Sarah, what happened with Celeste? She let me live, Sarah said. That's what happened. Now we need to make sure she doesn't kill anyone else. Even though part of her, the part that had watched Tom die, that had seen too many guilty men walk free, that had lost faith in the system years ago, part of her hoped they'd be too late. Frank Castellano was eating dinner at his favorite restaurant, an Italian place in Greektown that his family had owned for 40 years, when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost ignored it, but something made him answer. Yeah, Mr. Castellano. A voice he didn't recognize, young, male. Vincent Moretti sends his regards. He needs you at the docks. Shipment came in early. Needs your signature. Frank checked his watch. 9 in the evening. Can it wait till morning? Mr. Moretti was very specific. Tonight. He said you'd understand. Frank did understand. Moretti didn't make requests. He gave orders. And smart people followed them. Fine. Which dock? Dock 7, 1 hour. Frank finished his veal parmigiana, left a generous tip, and drove to the waterfront. The docks were mostly abandoned at night shipping companies that had folded decades ago, leaving behind rusted warehouses and broken dreams. Dock 7 was at the far end, isolated. Frank didn't like it, but he trusted Moretti. Had worked for the family for 20 years. Done things that would have earned him life in prison. Moretti protected him. That was the deal. He parked near the warehouse entrance. No other cars. No guards. Strange. Frank pulled his gun, Smith & Wesson chrome custom grip, and approached carefully. The warehouse door was open. Inside, darkness. Hello, Moretti. Lights flickered on. Old fluorescents, half of them dead, casting everything in sick yellow. And there, in the center of the warehouse, stood a figure. Young, black, wearing clothes that looked like they'd been buried and dug up. Daniel Baker. No. Frank's voice cracked. No, you're dead. I saw the photos. 3 shots. Center mass. You're fucking dead. Daniel smiled. Except it wasn't Daniel's smile. It was something older, something that enjoyed Frank's fear, like fine wine. Dead, yes, but not gone. The voice was wrong, too. Layered. You killed me, Frank. You and Ryder and Ghost and Moretti. You killed me because I heard things I shouldn't have. Saw things that made me a liability. It wasn't personal, kid. Just business. Just business. The thing wearing Daniel laughed. My mother cleaning toilets to feed me, that was just business. Me going to school, trying to be better, trying to escape that was just business. And when you put 3 bullets in my heart, that was just business too. Frank raised his gun. Stay back, I'll shoot. You already did. It didn't take. Frank fired. 3 shots. Center mass. Perfect grouping. Daniel didn't fall. Didn't even flinch. The bullets passed through him like he was smoke. My turn, Daniel said. Frank ran. Made it 10 feet before something grabbed his ankle, yanked him off his feet. He hit the concrete hard, vision swimming. Daniel was there, kneeling beside him, pulling out a knife that looked old, handmade, sacred. This is going to hurt, Daniel said conversationally. Baron Samedi doesn't believe in quick deaths. He prefers his victims to have time to reflect, to understand what they did, to beg. Please. Frank's voice was a whimper. Please, I have a family, kids, grandkids. Please. So did I. Her name was Celeste, and you took her son from her. The knife came down. Sarah and the SWAT team arrived at Dock 7 20 minutes later. They'd monitored Castellano's phone, tracked him to the location, moved as fast as they could. Not fast enough. Castellano was alive. Barely. Hanging from a loading crane by Chain's body, carved with symbols that hurt to look at. He was screaming. Would be screaming for hours before blood loss or shock finally took him. Sarah looked away. Even the hardened SWAT guys were pale. Cut him down, she ordered. Get paramedics, now. While they worked, she examined the scene. No sign of the killer. But on the warehouse floor, drawn in Castellano's blood, was another Vive, more elaborate this time, more detailed, and underneath it a message. 5 more days, 5 more deaths. Stay away, detective. This is not your burden to carry. Sarah photographed everything, called it in, watched paramedics load Castellano into an ambulance, knowing he'd probably die before reaching the hospital. Her phone rang. Kowalski. Sarah, we have a problem. Vincent Moretti is dead. Everything stopped. What? Found in his house an hour ago. Housekeeper called it in. Same symbol, same M.O. He's been dead since this afternoon, coroner thinks. But Castellano he was just killed. That's not possible. That would mean there's 2 of them, or this thing can be in 2 places at once. I know, which means there's 2 of them, or this thing can be in multiple places at once. Sarah's blood went cold. Get to Celeste's apartment. Now. I think we've been looking at this wrong. What do you mean? I mean, Celeste isn't the killer. She's the architect, and she's got help. Sarah drove back to Highland Park faster than was legal, running red lights, praying she wasn't too late. The apartment building was quiet. Too quiet. She took the stairs 3 at a time. Celeste's door was still ajar. Sarah pulled her weapon and entered. The apartment was dark except for candles. Dozens of them surrounding a circle drawn on the floor in what looked like ash and salt and something darker. Celeste sat in the center of the circle. Her eyes were closed. She was chanting in a language Sarah didn't recognize. Beside her, Tamar stood perfectly still, but his shadow moved independently, dancing in the candlelight, sometimes matching his movements, sometimes not. And in the corner, barely visible, was Daniel. Except it wasn't Daniel anymore. The body was deteriorating rapidly, flesh pulling away from bone eyes, sunken mouth fixed in a grimace. But it was still moving, still animated. Sarah raised her weapon. Celeste, stop. Whatever you're doing, stop now. Celeste's eyes opened. They glowed faintly in the candlelight. You should not be here, detective. This place is sacred. protected. Moretti is dead. Castellano is dying. How many more, Celeste? How many more before you've had enough? 7, I told you. 7 days, 7 deaths. The debt must be paid in full. And then what? You die. Tamar becomes a monster. Is that what Daniel would have wanted? Daniel wanted justice. Celeste's voice cracked. He wanted to live, to grow up, to become something beautiful in a world that only knows ugly. They took that from him. So yes, I will take from them. And yes, I will pay the price, because some debts can only be settled in blood. The thing wearing Daniel's corpse turned to look at Sarah. When it spoke, its jaw barely moved like a badly dubbed movie. She speaks truth, detective. This is justice. Old justice. The kind your laws forgot. Sarah kept her weapon trained on it. Your Baron Samedi. I am one face of death, one name among many. I am the bill that comes due, the reaper at the harvest, the judge who cannot be bribed. It smiled with Daniel's ruined mouth. And I am very good at my job. Then do your job somewhere else, not here, not with Celeste's sons, her sons. The thing laughed. Tamar was mine from the moment of conception, payment for a previous debt, and Daniel's flesh serves me now. What they were, they are no more. What they are because their mother made them so. Sarah looked at Tamar. Is this what you want? To be a weapon for the rest of your life? Tamar's expression was unreadable. What I want has never mattered. I am the firstborn, the sacrifice. I accepted that a long time ago. No. Sarah holstered her weapon. No, you're a human being, with choices, with free will. You don't have to do this. But he does. Celeste stood slowly. Because I asked him to. Because I failed him as a mother and failed Daniel as a protector, and this is all I have left. 7 days. 5 more deaths. And then I go into the dark, and my sons are free. Celeste, please. There has to be another way. Let me help you. Let me bring these people to justice the right way. Go home, Detective Mitchell. Celeste's voice was soft, final. Go home to your empty house and your empty bed, and remember the husband you couldn't save. Remember what it feels like to be helpless, to have all the power in the world, and still watch someone you love die. Then tell me I'm wrong for seeking justice the only way I know how. The words hit harder than any bullet. Sarah stood there, weapon down, fighting tears. She'd failed Tom, failed to see the warning signs to make him go to the doctor to do CPR fast enough, and she'd lived with that failure every day since. Celeste was right. Sarah understood. Maybe that was the real horror. I can't let you do this, Sarah whispered. You cannot stop me. The candles went out all at once. In the darkness, Sarah heard movement, felt something brush past her. When she managed to find her flashlight, the apartment was empty. Celeste, Tamar, and the thing that had been Daniel were all gone. On the floor in the center of the circle was a single object, Daniel's high school graduation photo. Smiling, proud, alive. Sarah picked it up with shaking hands and finally let herself cry. Marcus Williams sat in a safe house on the outskirts of Detroit police protection outside, knowing something was coming for him that bullets couldn't stop. He'd survived 3 drive-bys, 2 prison stabbings, and a turf war that left half his crew dead. He was not a man who scared easily, but he was terrified now. The detective Mitchell had explained it. Voodoo. Revenge. A mother who'd made a deal with death itself. Ghost had laughed at first. Superstitious bullshit. He believed in guns and money and power you could hold in your hands. Then they'd shown him the photos from the warehouse. The symbols carved into his boys. Castellano hanging from chains, still alive, but wishing he wasn't. Moretti found in his mansion every bone in his body, shattered eyes open, frozen in an expression of absolute terror. Ghost didn't laugh anymore. His phone buzzed, text from an unknown number. 2 days left, then it's your turn. Ghost threw the phone across the room. It shattered against the wall. Didn't matter. They'd just contact him another way. They always did. He tried running. Got as far as the airport before something made him turn back. Not fear, not courage, just a certainty bone deep that he couldn't run from this. That wherever he went, they'd find him. The protection detail was a joke. 6 cops rotating shifts convinced they could keep him safe. But Ghost had seen what happened at the warehouse, had watched a dead man cut down grown men like wheat, had heard that voice older than dirt, promising that his sins would find him. Ghost poured himself a drink. Whiskey. Expensive stuff he'd taken from Moretti's private collection after the man turned up dead. Seemed fitting somehow. The lights flickered. Ghost set down the glass, grabbed his gun. Who's there? Silence. The lights went out completely. I know you're here. Ghost's voice cracked. Show yourself. A voice from the darkness. Young. Familiar. Hello, Marcus. Devon. Ghost's gun hand shook. No, you're dead. I saw your body. So did I. Wasn't pleasant. Footsteps getting closer. Throat cut. Bled out in an alley. All because you were too proud, too ambitious, too stupid to see the real enemy. I didn't know about Ryder's deal. I swear, Devon. I thought the skulls killed you. I thought I was protecting our territory. You thought you were in control, that you ran these streets, that nothing could touch you. Devon's voice was sad, disappointed. But you were just a piece on someone else's board. We all were. I'm sorry. Christ, Devon, I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't bring me back. The lights flickered on. Devon stood 5 feet away, throat gaping open, clothes still soaked with blood. But it wasn't Devon's eyes looking out. It was something else. Something that had worn Devon's body the way it now wore Daniel's. Baron Samedi. Ghost's whisper. Among other names. The thing smiled. You are afraid, Marcus. Good. Fear is honest. More honest than you've been in years. What do you want? Nothing from you, but Celeste Baptiste wants your life, and I am here to collect. Ghost raised his gun, fired, every bullet, 12 rounds, every one passing through Devon without effect. I already told Castellano bullets don't work on the dead. Ghost dropped the gun, fell to his knees. Please, I didn't kill Daniel. That was Ryder and his people. I wasn't even there when it happened. But you profited. You used Daniel's death to consolidate power, to take over territories, to build your kingdom on a foundation of corpses. You are as guilty as any of them. Then kill me. Just make it quick, please. The thing tilted its head. Quick. Where's the justice in that? No, Marcus. You're going to live. For now. Because Celeste wants you to watch. To see everyone else die. To know your last, to feel what she felt, helpless, afraid, certain that death is coming, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. That's torture. That's mercy. Be grateful. The thing that wore Devon's corpse vanished. Literally. There one moment, gone the next. The lights came back on. The protection detail burst in guns drawn, shouting. Ghost sat on the floor and laughed until he cried. Sarah sat in Lieutenant Morrison's office looking at the caseboard. 7 faces, 4 already crossed out in red. Ryder's 2 soldiers, Frank Castellano, Vincent Moretti. 3 left. Ryder himself still in ICU. Mayor Costanzo, Marcus Williams. We can't protect all of them, Morrison said. We don't have the resources. Then we pick one and hope we get lucky. Which one? Sarah studied the board. Mayor Costanzo. He's the weakest link, most public figure. If we can keep him alive, prove that voodoo or whatever this is can be stopped, maybe we can negotiate with Celeste. Negotiate. Morrison looked at her like she'd grown a second head. Mitchell, the woman, is a serial killer. We don't negotiate. We arrest. With what evidence? We have Symbol's bodies and a woman who claims she made a deal with death. No DA in the country would touch this case. Then we force the issue. Bring her in. Interrogate her. Make her tell us how she's doing this. She's not the one doing it, sir. That's the problem. Morrison leaned back in his chair. I don't believe in voodoo, Mitchell. I believe in evidence and perpetrators and justice under the law. Find me those things or get off this case. Sarah stood. Then I need 48 hours. Full surveillance on Costanzo, protection detail, and no interference. Why 48 hours? Because that's how long we have until day 7. After that, according to Celeste, it's over. She pays her debt and it ends. Her debt being what exactly? Her life. She told me. 7 days, 7 deaths, then she gives herself to Baron Samedi. The bargain is complete. Morrison was quiet for a long time. You sound like you believe this. I believe Celeste believes it, and right now that's what matters. Fine, 48 hours. But Mitchell, if this goes sideways, it's your badge. Sarah left the office knowing her badge was already forfeit. She'd let Celeste go, let Tamar go, let them continue their revenge spree because part of her, the part that remembered Tom dying, that knew the system was broken, that had seen too many guilty men walk free, part of her wanted them to succeed. But she was still a cop. And cops didn't let people kill no matter how justified the cause. She called Kowalski. Get me everything on Mayor Costanzo's schedule for the next 2 days, and Nick call in every favor we have. I want eyes on him 24/7. Kowalski was quiet for a moment. Sarah, I have to ask, do you think we can actually stop this? Sarah looked at Daniel's graduation photo still in her jacket pocket. I don't know, she said honestly, but we have to try. Mayor Peter Costanzo was having the worst week of his political career. First, his biggest donor and protector, Vincent Moretti, turned up dead. Then Castellano, his conduit to the mob, was found mutilated at the docks. Now the police wanted to provide him with protection against some kind of voodoo death threat. He'd laughed at first. Voodoo, please. This was Detroit in the 21st century, not Haiti in the Dark Ages. But then they'd shown him the photos, the symbols, the bodies, the correlation between every victim and the East Side expansion plan. Costanzo had signed off on that plan, had pulled police protection from the East Side the night of the warehouse meet, had known on some level that people would die. He just hadn't expected to be one of them. Mr. Mayor, Detective Mitchell stood in his office looking exhausted. We need to move you to a secure location, just for the next 48 hours. After that, we believe the threat will be over. Why 48 hours? Because that's when Celeste Baptiste's deadline expires. Costanzo poured himself a scotch. 3 fingers. Neat. His hand shook slightly. You really think some cleaning lady can kill me with voodoo? I think she's already killed 4 people and she's not done. So yes, Mr. Mayor, I think she can kill you. Costanzo drank, thought about his options. He could run, resign, disappear to some island where Celeste's reach didn't extend. But that would mean admitting guilt, would mean giving up everything he'd built, the power, the connections, the future governorship he'd been planning for years. Fine, he said. Where do you want me? There's a federal building downtown, secure, isolated. We can control access. You'll be safe there. What about my wife, my kids? They're already being moved to a separate location. Different protection detail. We're not taking chances. Costanzo nodded, finished his drink, grabbed his coat. He was halfway to the door when the lights went out. Stay close, Mitchell said, flashlight out, weapon drawn. The emergency lights kicked in, red glow, shadows everywhere. And at the end of the hallway, a figure, young, black, wearing a grocery store uniform that had been buried underground for days. Daniel Baker. No. Costanzo backed up. No, this isn't real. You're not real. I was real enough when I was alive, Daniel said. His voice echoed wrong, like it was coming from inside Costanzo's head. Real enough to have dreams, plans, a future, and you took all of that from me. Mitchell stepped between them, gun raised. Don't move. I will shoot. You've tried that before, detective. It didn't work then. It won't work now. Maybe not, but I have to try. Daniel's expression softened. Not much, but enough. You are not my enemy. You were kind to my mother, respectful, honest in a world that profits from lies. For that you may leave. I'm not leaving the mayor. Then you will die with him. Your choice. Mitchell's hands steadied. What would Daniel want, the real Daniel? Not Baron Samedi wearing his face. What would that boy who worked at a grocery store and went to community college, what would he want? The thing paused. In that pause, Sarah saw something. A flicker. Daniel's eyes, just for a second, confused and sad and young. He would want his mother to be happy, the thing finally said. He would want her to live without fear, without pain, without the weight of 20 years of running and hiding and pretending to be something she's not. And will killing 7 people give her that? Or will it just add more weight, more guilt, more running? It will give her justice. It will give her revenge. There's a difference. The thing tilted its head. Is there? Behind them, Costanzo made a break for it. Ran for the stairs, footsteps echoing in the empty building. The thing moved, impossibly fast. One moment in front of Sarah, the next blocking the stairwell. Costanzo skidded to a stop. Please, I have money, connections, whatever you want, whatever Celeste wants. Just name the price. The price, the thing said, was already paid. 20 years ago in a village in Haiti when 7 men took an innocent girl and destroyed her. Celeste called me then, made her first bargain, and I have been waiting ever since for the second. I don't know what you're talking about. I never heard anyone in Haiti. I've never even been to Haiti. You signed the order. You pulled the police. You made sure the East Side was unprotected so Moretti's plan could proceed. You are as guilty as if you'd pulled the trigger yourself. Costanzo's face crumpled. I didn't know they were going to kill anyone. Moretti said it was just a business deal, just moving some territory around. I didn't know about the kid. Ignorance is not innocence. The thing reached out, not with Daniel's hands, but with something else, something that looked like smoke and shadow and the absolute certainty of death. Sarah fired, every round in her clip, knowing it wouldn't work but trying anyway because that's what cops did. They tried. The bullets passed through harmlessly. The shadow touched Costanzo. The mayor screamed. Once. Then he was silent, collapsing to the floor, eyes wide and empty. Sarah ran to him, checked for a pulse. Nothing. No visible wounds. No marks. Just dead. She looked up at the thing wearing Daniel's body. "Are you satisfied? Is this justice?" Asked Celeste. The thing started to fade. Ask her if she feels whole now, if the bleeding has stopped, if she can sleep at night knowing her son's killers are dead. Wait. Sarah stood. What about Ryder? He's still alive. Ryder is mine, tomorrow night when the 7th day dawns, and then... The thing smiled. Then Celeste pays her debt. It vanished completely. Sarah stood in the red-lit hallway with a dead mayor and no explanation that would make sense in a police report. Her phone rang. Kowalski. "Sarah, where are you? I just heard about Costanzo. Are you okay?" "Costanzo is dead. I was with him. I saw it happen. And Nick, there's nothing we can do to stop this. Nothing except maybe convince Celeste to call it off." "How do you convince someone to stop when they're already dead inside?" Sarah didn't have an answer. Celeste sat in her apartment, candles burning, feeling the moment Costanzo died. Felt Baron Samedi's satisfaction, his hunger, his joy in a job well done. 6 deaths. 1 more to go. Tamar sat across from her silent. He'd been silent for 2 days now, ever since he'd understood what his role would be. The vessel, the host, the body that would replace Daniel's when it finally gave out. "You don't have to do this," Celeste said. Not for the first time. "Yes, I do." Tamar's voice was flat. "I've known since I was old enough to understand. You called Baron Samedi before I was born, made me part of the bargain. I am his as much as yours. I'm sorry." "Don't be. I've had a life, not a good one, not a normal one, but a life. I've seen things, done things, made my peace with what I am." He looked at her finally. "But Daniel deserved better, deserved the life I never had. So if I can give him peace even for a moment, even in death, then that's worth it." Celeste wanted to argue, wanted to say there was another way, but she'd exhausted every other option 20 years ago. This was always how it was going to end. Her phone rang. Detective Mitchell. "Celeste, please, we need to talk." "There is nothing to talk about, Detective. Costanzo is dead. 6 people are dead. How many more before you've had enough?" "1 more, Ryder, and then it's done." "And then what? You die, Tamar becomes a monster. Is that really what Daniel would want?" Celeste closed her eyes. Daniel wanted to live. That is all. Simple and impossible. I cannot give him that, but I can give him justice. This isn't justice, this is revenge, and it's destroying you. I was destroyed 20 years ago, Detective, in a village in Haiti when I learned that love is not enough to protect the people you care about, that sometimes the only language the world understands is violence. Celeste's voice broke. I tried to be good, tried to be American, tried to build a life where magic and death and darkness couldn't reach, and they took my son anyway. So yes, I am taking revenge, and yes, I will pay the price, but at least I will have done something. At least I will not be helpless. You're not helpless. You're powerful. Maybe the most powerful person I've ever met, but power used for revenge just creates more pain, more victims, more mothers who will lose their sons. Then they should make better choices than the men I killed. Silence on the line. I can't let you kill Ryder, Mitchell finally said. You cannot stop me. Then I'll try anyway, because that's my job, and because someone has to stand between you and the darkness even if it doesn't make a difference. Celeste felt something crack inside her. You are a good woman, detective. You remind me of who I used to be, who I wanted to be. Tell me, would you have done differently? If it was your husband, if you could bring him back, make the people responsible pay, would you have chosen differently? The silence stretched longer. I don't know, Mitchell whispered. God help me. I don't know. Then you understand. Celeste hung up. Tomorrow, one more death, and then her debt would be paid. She looked at Tamar. When it's done, when I'm gone, run, disappear. Baron Samedi will come for you, but maybe if you're far enough away, fast enough, you can escape. Tamar smiled. Maman, I've been running my whole life. I'm tired. If this is my fate, then I accept it. You deserve better. We all do, but this is what we have. Celeste pulled him into a hug. Her firstborn. The child she'd never been able to love the way she loved Daniel, because she'd known from the moment of his birth that he belonged to something else. I'm sorry, she whispered, for everything. I know, Tamar said. I know. Tomorrow would be the 7th day, and Celeste Baptiste would finally pay the debt she'd been carrying for 20 years. Ryder woke up in the hospital, throat-bandaged machines, beeping cops sitting outside his door. He'd survived. Barely. The doctor said it was a miracle the noose hadn't crushed his windpipe completely. Ryder didn't believe in miracles. He believed in luck, and his had just run out. He could feel it coming. Death. Not the abstract concept, but the actual entity, hungry and patient and very close. The cop outside was young, nervous, kept checking his phone, his watch, the hallway, waiting for something to happen. Ryder could have told him it wouldn't matter, that cops and guns and security measures meant nothing against what was coming. But his throat hurt too much to talk. The lights flickered. The cop stood up, hand on his weapon. Hello? Someone there? The lights went out completely. Ryder heard the cop's footsteps, heard him call for backup on his radio, heard the fear in his voice, then screaming, short, cut off. The lights came back on. The cop was gone. The door to Ryder's room stood open, and in the doorway, backlit by harsh fluorescent light, stood Daniel Baker. Except it wasn't Daniel anymore. The body had deteriorated too much, flesh hanging off bones, eyes sunken, mouth frozen in a rictus grin, but still moving, still walking, still hunting. Hello, Ryder, it said. Ryder tried to speak, couldn't. His throat was too damaged. Nothing to say. That's fine. I'll talk. The thing entered the room, closing the door behind it. You killed me. Shot me 3 times. Center mass. Professional work. You were good at your job. Ryder grabbed the call button, pressed it frantically. They won't come in time. They never do. The thing sat on the edge of the bed. I want you to know something. This wasn't personal for me. I didn't want to be part of your world, didn't want power or money or territory. I just wanted to take care of my mother, go to school, maybe have a family someday. Tears ran down Ryder's face. But you took that from me. So my mother took it from you. Seems fair, doesn't it? An eye for an eye, a son for a son. The thing leaned closer. Except you don't have a son. You don't have anyone who will mourn you. You'll just be another body, another statistic, forgotten before the funeral. The thing reached out with hands that were more bone than flesh, now touched Ryder's chest. Ryder felt his heart stop. Not painfully, just stop, like someone had flipped a switch. 7 days, the thing whispered. 7 deaths. The debt is paid. Rest now, Ryder. Rest and know that justice, however late, eventually comes. Ryder's vision dimmed. The last thing he saw was Daniel's face deteriorating in real time, the borrowed flesh finally giving up. When the nurses found them 10 minutes later, both Ryder and the thing that had killed him were dead. Security footage showed nothing entering or leaving the room. Sarah stood over the bodies, feeling numb. 7 deaths. The bargain complete. Now came the hard part. Celeste knew the moment it was done. Felt Baron Samedi's satisfaction like a physical weight lifting from her chest. 7 days. 7 deaths. The debt settled. Almost. She stood in her living room dressed in white as was traditional for the final ceremony. Tamar stood beside her also in white, calm and accepting. On the floor she'd drawn one last veuve, not Baron Samedi's this time, a different Loa, Erzuli Frida, the Loa of love and beauty and maternal protection, a prayer, a hope, a last desperate plea that maybe, just maybe, love could break what death had forged. "It's time," Celeste said. Tamar knelt in the center of the veuve. "I'm ready." Celeste began the chant. Old words. Creole mixed with French, mixed with something older than both. The words her mother had taught her, the words she'd sworn never to use again. The candles flared, the veuve glowed, and Baron Samedi came, not wearing a borrowed body this time. This was him. Top hat and skull face, and eyes like open graves. He was magnificent, terrifying, everything death should be. Mambo. His voice was everywhere and nowhere. "The bargain is complete. 7 deaths delivered. Now you pay." "Yes." Celeste's voice didn't shake. "But I have one request." "You are in no position to make requests." "Just one. A trade. Not my life for Tamar's, my soul for his. Completely. Forever." He walks away free, unburdened, able to live the life I stole from him before he was born. And I go into your service, not for 7 days or 7 years, forever. Baron Samedi circled her, considering. "Your soul. Interesting. And what makes you think it's worth anything to me? Because I am a mambo. I have power, skills. I could serve you well. Better than dragging around corpses and frightening mortals. I could be your priestess, your voice in this world. Building you followers, creating ceremonies, spreading your influence. Or I could just take what I'm owed. Your life, Tamar service, both." "You could, but where's the profit in that? I die, you get 1 death. Hardly impressive for a Loa of your stature, but I serve willingly permanently, the things I could accomplish in your name." Baron Samedi stopped circling. You would do this, damn yourself eternally for a son you could never love. He is my son. I failed him once. I will not fail him again. Silence. Long enough that Celeste thought he would refuse. Then Baron Samedi spoke. You interest me, Mambo. Most mothers would beg for their child's life. You offer your soul. Very well. I accept your trade. He reached out, touched her forehead with one skeletal finger. Celeste felt something tear loose inside her. Not painful exactly. More like cutting a rope that had been holding weight for so long she'd forgotten what it felt like to stand straight. It is done, Baron Samedi said. Tamar is free and you are mine. Celeste looked at Tamar. His eyes were wide, disbelieving. Maman, no. I can't let you do this. This isn't what I wanted. This isn't what Daniel would have wanted. You have no choice. It's done. Celeste smiled. Actually smiled for the first time since Daniel died. Live, Tamar. Live the life I never gave you. Find something good. Something pure. Be better than what I made you. I don't know how. Then learn. You have time now. Use it. Baron Samedi extended his hand to Celeste. Come, Mambo, we have work to do. Celeste took his hand. It was cold, final, exactly what she deserved. The last thing she saw before the darkness took her was Tamar freed whole and weeping. Sarah burst into Celeste's apartment with SWAT behind her ready for anything. The apartment was empty. No bodies, no blood, just candles burned down to stubs and a circle drawn on the floor, and in the center of the circle kneeling was Tamar. Hands up, don't move. Tamar raised his hand slowly. She's gone. My mother. She's gone. Sarah approached carefully. Where? With him. With Baron Samedi. She traded herself for me. Damned herself so I could be free. Sarah looked around the apartment, at Daniel's photos, at the altar Celeste had built, at the remnants of a mother's love and a mother's rage. We need you to come with us, answer some questions. About what? The deaths, I had nothing to do with those. That was all her, all Baron Samedi. I was just the son who couldn't save either of them. Sarah wanted to argue, wanted to cuff him, drag him in, make someone pay for the 7 bodies and the chaos and the fact that the world didn't make sense anymore. But looking at Tamar, seeing the genuine grief and relief and confusion in his eyes, she couldn't. Go, she said quietly. Her team looked at her in shock. Ma'am, I said go. Get out of Detroit. Go somewhere far away. Build a life. And if I ever see you again, I will arrest you. Understand? Tamar understood. He stood, slowly walked to the door, paused. She wasn't a bad person, detective. Just someone the world broke. Someone who ran out of good choices. I know, Sarah said. I know. Tamar left. Sarah let him. Kowalski pulled her aside. Sarah, what the hell was that? We just let a potential accomplice walk away. This is going to come back on us. Justice, Sarah said. Real justice. Not the kind we serve. The kind that actually balances the scales. She walked out of the apartment, leaving her team to process a crime scene that would never make sense in any report. 3 months later, Sarah Mitchell resigned from the Detroit Police Department. The official reason was stress. The real reason was she couldn't pretend anymore. Couldn't pretend the system worked, that justice existed, that good people were rewarded and bad people punished. She'd seen too much, knew too much, believed too much in things that didn't fit in police reports or courtrooms or the rational world everyone else lived in. She moved to a small town in northern Michigan, opened a bookstore, sold coffee and paperbacks, and tried to forget. But every night she dreamed of Celeste, saw her standing in the darkness, Baron Samedi's hand in hers, choosing damnation over helplessness. And every morning, Sarah woke up wondering if she'd have made the same choice. Tamar Baptiste disappeared. Intelligence agencies looked for him half-heartedly, but he was gone, completely, like he'd never existed. Rumors surfaced over the years. A man matching his description running an orphanage in Morocco, teaching children, protecting them, building something good from the ashes of his cursed life. Sarah hoped the rumors were true. Daniel Baker's grave got a new headstone paid for by an anonymous donor. It read, "Beloved son, gone too soon, forever remembered." People left flowers sometimes, strangers who'd read about the case, about the murders, about the mother who'd loved her son enough to damn herself. Detroit moved on. New mayor, new scandals, new bodies. The city never stopped bleeding, never stopped taking. But in a small apartment in Highland Park, now empty and cleaned, something lingered. On quiet nights, neighbors reported hearing singing. Old songs, Haitian songs, a mother's lullaby to sons who would never grow old. And sometimes, just sometimes, when the moon was full and the city slept, people swore they saw a woman in white walking the streets, not threatening, not hunting, just walking, just remembering, just being a mother who'd loved her children the only way she knew how. Sarah visited Detroit once a year, always on the anniversary of Daniel's death, always left flowers at his grave, always whispered an apology for failing him, failing Celeste, failing to be the kind of cop who could have prevented all of this. And every year without fail, when she turned to leave, there was a single white rose on the grave that hadn't been there before. A gift, a message, a reminder that some debts get paid, some loves endure. Some mothers never stop protecting their children even from beyond death itself. Sarah never tried to explain the rose, never photographed it or mentioned it in conversation. She just accepted it, the way she'd accepted everything else she'd learned that week in Detroit. That justice and revenge were sometimes the same thing, that love could drive people to damnation, that the world was bigger and stranger and darker than any police manual could capture, and that sometimes the only way to save someone was to sacrifice yourself. Celeste Baptiste had understood that, had made her choice, had paid her price, and somewhere in whatever darkness she now inhabited, she was still a mother, still protecting, still loving, still waiting for the day when she could hold her sons again. That day would come. Baron Samedi had promised. After all debts eventually get paid, all of them, even deaths.